Hello everybody and welcome back to Monday Musings, where I speak about things that are on my mind, hopefully once a week. We're going strong at 2 episodes today, but we'll see how that goes. Now, I'm going to speak on something I don't really speak about often. I have autism. It only really comes up as a speaky point now because it was recently finally diagnosed, and it doesn't feel good at all. I always knew it. I always knew I was autistic. There was no denying that. And it was never a question really. But in order to get the help I so desperately needed financially and some ways, I'm moving to uni soon, basically, university, because I'm 18, and that means I have to move out, which is fucking terrifying. So I wanted some sort of assistance financially or any other way. So I had to get diagnosed. I can't just go in there and say, "Lol, I am autistic. Lol, please accept." So, yeah. But in order to get the help I so desperately needed, I needed to talk to medical professionals, I had to tell my college, and I had to leave college sometimes for appointments and checkups and I don't know, whatever, tests and shit. So I had an excuse to leave college, and to be honest, it was kind of hard to think of a lie about that kind of stuff. So, really, if anyone asked while I was gone, well, they would find out, wouldn't they? Because I would just tell them. Now I know it's a common thing now to have autism. I know I go on a whole rant about what I think about that. What I think the proportions of people who don't really have autism, but actually just say they do because it's really funny and quirky. I never understand how people can use it as a flex, as a trophy. It's not a good thing, and it's important you celebrate that you're autistic because it's great that you can make your way through life while having what is effectively a disability for most people. And it's great to celebrate it, and if you are, you're fine, because it's not something to be ashamed of, but to be showing it off and bringing it lightly in conversation that you have, which is bringing up what is, once again, effectively a disability, is just not something someone who has the issue would really do. I understand bringing it up in friends' conversations, because make fun of everyone. Make fun of yourself. Do all the shit, but not with people you're not close with. You know what I mean? Anyway, I won't go into that rant. I won't go into that tangent. Like I said, I always knew I was autistic, and as I said, I used to speak rather openly about it, which not only led to a lot of people I wouldn't want knowing, but also led to the consequences they don't tell you about in the training camps. The absolute infantilization. Is that a word? I think that's a word. Well, basically, to explain it, people treat me like I'm 5 years old. That kind of thing is absurd. I would feel like a lesser person to these people. I've lost the last bit of confidence I had, and now purely rely on what can only be described as little nudges in the right directions from friends and family, telling me that I'm, doing the right thing. Now, the reason I feel like a lesser person, and I lost all this confidence, is because everyone has a misperception of autism. Take me back a couple years ago, and I would say there's 2 versions of autism that people think of. The first one being an absolute genius, Sheldon Cooper, Leonardo Wolowitz, Scott DeWaz, Albert Einstein, super genius. And just also a flat-out retard. There's no better term for it. Obviously, it's a spectrum, and I would say there is a third version, which is the majority of people who are just autistic and have these issues, whether socially and there's a majority of people. A lot of autistic people can have super genius stuff that they do, but realistically, a lot of them don't, and it's just a weird middle ground. But now there's even a fourth version, which is the funny, quirky white girl autism, where any social disparity is now, I'm so silly and autistic, lol lol, I'm so OCD, and it's just fucking annoying. But this also usually leads me to be subconsciously treated like I'm different or unable to follow with the conversations that people are having. Many times people will lean down to congratulate me, or put on a voice you would put on for a 5-year-old when I achieve something. Like, oh, well done. What the fuck? Like, they're gonna finish it off with good boy or something. I mean, I'd anyway, it's enraging to say the least. I notice how people see me and how people can sometimes call out the autism before I even say anything. I'm self-aware of how I walk, how I smile, how my arms fling around, and how I interact with objects. It makes me scared. Everyone's judging me. So I just tend to not go outside at all unless fully necessary. Anyways, I recently had to get it actually officially diagnosed for monetary reasons, and I had to go through this test. That was a rather quick test, but there was a test, and it was quite draining. I don't want to make it seem like I have it all hard, and that's where my notes end for this. I'm just going to talk off the top of my head. It's not that the test was hard, but it made me realize what I was and who I was. I read the results of the test, and you know what? I'm gonna get some snippets up right now, and I'm gonna read them for you. Basically, in this test, they asked me questions and they asked me to do things, and then they jot down how I do it and what I do. Basically, just judging me and how I act in a social situation. Instantly, they have something to say. They say, Blake presented as anxious during the session, jiggling and tapping his leg often. Blake made occasional eye contact with the clinician. He did not tend to look at the clinician when conversing. Blake's smiles were sometimes incongruous with what he was saying. Example, smiling when talking about bullying others and feeling anxious and scared. Overall, Blake did not use a full range of facial expressions. While some brief conversations were established, there was a degree of inflexibility in conversations as Blake sometimes gave limited responses. Example, yeah. This means that conversations did not easily flow, and this also limited the opportunity for reciprocal conversations to develop. At times, Blake missed conversational hooks where he was given the opportunity to ask the clinician for further information. Instead, Blake smiled, nodded, and said yeah. During the assessment, Blake sat with his hands in his front pocket of his hoodie or tapped his leg and jiggled his leg almost constantly throughout. He occasionally pinched his lip. It is unclear whether there is a sensory need underlying these behaviours. They asked me a lot of questions about how I see things in the world. The first thing they did was they made me brush my teeth. Not really, they made me imagine brushing my teeth, and that was quite easy. They made me read a book, and that was quite easy. They made me describe what was going on, but it felt the same thing as the infantilization thing I was talking about earlier, where they were like, run me through step by step how you brush your teeth, and then they made me read a picture book, and they made me describe the picture book, and yeah. That shit, it got to me because it made me feel infantilized again. But then she asked me about deeper questions, such as what kind of person are you, like at school. And I had to talk to her about how in my primary school I was a bit of a bully, and I was just a bully. And at secondary school I continued to be a bit like that, and using my words and saying things at the wrong time. But she never asked me did I mean to do it. She just asked me what I did, and kind of just made me feel bad during the whole thing. It made me also self-reflect during it. Blake thinks he annoys other people because he never lets there be a silent moment. He is always talking. Made me talk about my friends, and they asked what the meaning of a friendship is, and I said, you don't hate them. They didn't seem to like the answer when I was there. You know someone is your friend when they invite you to do something and they want to see you outside of college. Blake did not make any reference to his own role within a friendship. They asked me about a relationship and like what makes a relationship. They asked me about college. They asked me about where I'm going to university. Oh shit, I closed the thing. They asked me where I'm going to university. They asked me who I live with, what I do. Asked me how I make money. And does a teeny bit of online gambling. Let me talk about my biggest fears, such as, war. What makes me angry, politics, what makes me scared, going into the wind. What makes me happy when I used to spend time with us. That's just... My mum had to read that, come on! That was just a bit rude, wasn't it? Some other things that they didn't tell me my mother was going to fucking read. I believe somewhere in here I admit my bisexuality. Which, didn't want my mother to read. Anyway, I walked out of this experience very, very drained. And it made me realize that this shit is a disability. Like, I just spoke to a woman for 40 minutes and I felt like the worst person in the world. She just made me open up about, like, every single way in which I am slower than everyone else. Like, it just sucks. Made me think about all the times where I spin on the spot when I'm waiting for something. It makes me think about when I kick my legs and when I pinch myself and when ever since then I haven't really been able to get out of this self-image issue. But I think everything about me is just wrong. And it kind of sucks. I don't really know what else to say. Basically, just if you or someone you know has, autism, just try and think a bit more carefully, because it's not how it's portrayed in any sort of media most of the time. Most of the time, the way media portrays it is the way that is most entertaining. Not everyone's fucking, I am a surgeon, or XQC, or, you know, like that. Just, I don't know. It's just my experience. It's not been a fun one, and I don't think it will ever be a fun one. That's been me. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.